Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. The ones the apostles and elders of the great most on roll one. Shalom to the brothers doing the work sharing truth. Got this article on AP News, and again, it's just about them French going out and how these guys have been resisting. And it's funny because you talk to, average person in the world about these things. And like now especially, well, here in the UK, because restrictions have been down, like in most cases. Even though they mentioned, the max passports coming in September for like, what was it, restaurants, nightclubs, shit like that. Even though they mentioned it, people are still just like lax. They're just like, oh, why they doing this? Like, so you got what you wanted. Like, everything's fine. You can just go and all. You can, they're at ease. But that's because as far as they're seeing it, is like they think there's an end in sight, but there really ain't. There really ain't. French v Health Pass in full use, but protests keep going. Yeah, it's kind of like the way the article's worded. It's like they're meant to just be just giving up and just and moved on. But these Frenchmen were they've been doing the most for the longest anyway. So it's not even a mystery. Like, these men are legit been going in for the longest. It says what thousands marched Saturday in cities across France to protest the C19 health pass. It is now required to access restaurants, cafes, cultural venues, sports arenas, and long-distance travel. Does that mean like national trains? I guess that means like national trains. Like if you got to go from Paris to Lyon or some shit. I don't even know. It's another fucking French town. To Champagne. For a sixth straight Saturday, opponents denounce what they see as a restriction of their freedom. Many criticize the measure, claiming the French government was implicitly making vaccines obligatory, which was exactly what they're doing. And that's how it's using the term mandatory or putting it in the line of the law. That's not needed to essentially make it mandatory. It's just like, okay, well, you can't do X, Y, Z. Especially as well with France, like the culture of like cafes and whatnot that they have over there. And even long distance travel, that's wild. So I don't know if, does that include if you're driving somewhere? Because that might mean like crossing from one part of the country into another. Are you then going to have it to get around? Because I don't know if because it might be a thing like toll booths or some shit. I don't know. So it says in Paris, 4 demonstrations were organised by different groups, and over 200 protests were taking place elsewhere in French cities and towns. Last week, more than 200,000 marchers turned out. The pass shows that people are fully vaccinated, have had a recent negative test, or proof of a recent recovery. The law authorising it also makes vaccinations mandatory for French health workers by September 15th. Yeah, so as far as in the line of the law, it only applies for them. But you're highly pressured otherwise. Despite the protests, polls have shown that the majority of French people support the health pass. Yeah. Millions have received their first vaccine shot since Macron announced the measure on July 12th. Yeah, so it's done its job. It's like with the Pentagon. Was it the Pentagon? I believe it was the Pentagon that made it mandatory by either September or October for the army. But I think they said like something like 70 something percent. Nah, maybe I'm mixing it up. I think okay, but it says since last month, France is registering a high number of infections, about 22,000 a day, a figure that has remained stable over the past week. Over 47 million people in France, or 70.6% of the population, have received at least one shot, and more than 40.5 million, or 60%, are fully vaccinated. So, the rate of uptake is already the vast majority, which is kind of funny because it shows anything below like 100% isn't desirable. Because I remember when they first mentioned it, they were like, when they first mentioned it, they said, we just need X amount, a certain percentage to reach herd immunity. But now as well, because, this thing never ends. They brought in, the Delta variant. And now it's like, oh, well, you're still at risk. So it's just like, okay, everyone get this one. Then we're working on the boosters for next month. And you get that too. It's not going to end. And it's only going to intensify. That's why these, anyone with eyes to see can see it's the same thing with, like after 9/11, the Patriot Act. Them man, they got their laws through. That shit didn't disappear. Once the power's gained, ain't going nowhere. And people are lax. They don't know what's going on. They don't realize this thing is gonna continue to intensify around them. They're thinking it's like, oh, now it's been dealt with. Now we can go back to normal. But normal has been done away with. That's why everyone's talking about the new normal. That's why talking about the Great Reset, about getting readjusting how the world was approached after post pandemic. Matthew 24:38. For as in the days that were before the flood. No. 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Yeah. That's why it's the majority of people that just got it and got back on with their lives. They're thinking like, oh, okay, well, now it's gonna be dealt. It's over. It's all good. But they don't realize this thing is. You might be have it, and really it's their eyes have been closed and their ears have been shut. Because among Jake, the majority of Jake have been deafened and blinded to what's what's going on. But then as well, people in the world, the darkness has covered the people, man. Gross darkness. These guys don't have a clue. So for them, they're just thinking, blinded to what's going down. It's like, yeah, it's fine. So they're gonna be prepared. It's gonna come like the flood, where they're gonna be banging on the ark, screaming, as a calamity comes. And knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in a field, the one shall be taken, the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. Yeah, it's gonna be real. Somewhat, now they're saying it's like, oh, everyone knows like a relative that they might have lost to this thing going round. But light work. It's gonna get to the point where you're gonna desire to see the face of another person, which if it didn't really count within the pandemic, because you just go out and queue for Tesco, you see hundreds of faces with masks on. But yeah, it's gonna be on a whole different intensity, and this already has broken people. People they ain't gonna hack it. They ain't gonna make it, man. It's gonna be too real. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yeah, but shalom.